Everybody, my first guest this week covers the Alabama Crimson Tide for AL.com. That is a good friend, Matt Stahl. He is joining after Alabama lost 24-17 to Tennessee on Saturday. And Matt, I'm glad to see you made it out of Neyland. You got back to the state, but I appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, anytime. Thanks for having me.
So, I guess just kind of just overall, Alabama losing Saturday against Tennessee 24-17. I know I'm sorry, Alabama fans keep saying that, but we got to give you what happened on Saturday. But just your major takeaways. At the end of the day, what happened to Alabama on Saturday?
Offense wasn't good enough. It's been a sort of a flip because there were some games where like the defense was sort of the one, especially that Vanderbilt loss where it's like the defense couldn't get off the field and that sort of what let Alabama down. In this one, offense, I just had opportunity after opportunity. Defense was getting takeaways. Offense just was doing nothing with them. All sorts of penalties. You know, dumb interceptions. The whole thing, like it. Yeah, just offensive implosion there.
Yeah, and you talk about the offense wasn't good enough, and you're right because against Vanderbilt, just you couldn't get that off. The defense couldn't get off the field on third down. I mean, the Alabama offense was explosive when they had the ball in their hands in that game, but just they didn't have the ball enough against Vanderbilt, and then this game, and I see like a lot of people are putting a lot of the blame from the offense on Jalen Milroe. 25 for 45, 238, one touchdown, two interceptions. Particularly that interception he threw, that first one. I mean, it was a great play by McCoy of Tennessee, but still, you were in scoring position there early in the game. Also they didn't capitalize on the fumble early in the game from Tennessee. That opportunity, there seemed like in the first half of the game, there were some opportunities for Alabama. They could have distanced themselves from Tennessee, who, 3 weeks in a row has not scored a point in the first half.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's the fumble. It was just a misplaced ball on that throw to Ryan Williams in the end zone. Like he needed to throw it up over the defensive player there, and they kind of just threw it straight to him. Uh, yeah, bad throw there. It's one of those things where like Alabama went because he came back and they ran basically the same play to get it to Ryan Williams in the end zone to score that one touchdown. But they went to the locker room up 7-0, and it felt like it could have been 21-0. And like Tennessee, it's not even that Tennessee dodged some bullets. It's just like Alabama had a chance to put them away and just didn't do it just any way possible there.
Yeah, and of course, again, kind of piggybacking off what I said with Jalen Milroe, a lot of fans at least are happy with the performance. And obviously, he threw the interception at the end that sealed the game for Tennessee. But hey, Alabama, you couldn't really run the ball. Tennessee front's legit. That's one thing you tell people that know this that Tennessee. I mean, James Pierce. He gets a lot of the credit with this team, but there's a lot of great guys up front for Tennessee. But yeah, Alabama also they struggled running the ball, so the game did get put on the arm of Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things like the struggles running the ball. Tennessee did a lot of good things, but I mean, Alabama also kind of beat itself on that. Like Alabama just straight up could not block, like couldn't figure out like how to just take more Tennessee defenders out of the play. Like, Jalen Milroe's been such a huge part of the rushing offense. He's like such a big, just extra number you have to account for in the run game. They couldn't get him going at all. Getting the running backs going has been sort of a issue all season. I mean, the left side of your offensive line is generally more solid if you're Alabama. Tyler Booker and Caden Proctor over there's a good duo. But then that right side where I mean Elijah Pritchett out at tackle was struggling big time all game, run and pass. Like that was part of the issue on the passing game too, is just Jalen was under duress a lot of the time. So like you can't break on those deep balls if your quarterback's like just underwater in the backfield trying to find a place to run or throw the ball. And then, yeah, it sort of comes to Jalen making some bad decisions under pressure as well. I think it's 2 weeks in a row he's had a intentional grounding penalty because he's trying to throw out of a sack. Uh, there's times where he just needs to take another sack and like let it go instead of even on that last offensive play for Alabama where they get the ball back, have a chance to like go down the field and win the game, and he throws an interception first play. It looked to me like he was trying to throw out of a sack, and he just needed to take the sack, stand up, and like live to fight another day there. Instead, he sends it to Tennessee defender, and yeah, it's just across the board pretty rotten performance by the offense.
Yeah, and then, they did a good job. Alabama defense did a good job. We talked about the opportunities first half. I mean, we know what happened in the second half of the run game. We'll get to that in a second. But first half, Dylan Sampson, they pretty much held that part in check. And at the same time, Nico was not hitting his passes either down the field. I mean, I would say when you look at this game, a lot of people kind of getting on the Jalen Milrow about overthrows. They also had a bunch of overthrows on the other side for Tennessee. Nico, both quarterbacks are having
Yeah.
problems hitting their target, but just kind of like in the first half there, way Alabama's defense handled the Tennessee run game, which was the best in the SEC coming in.
Yeah, yeah, it was really impressive. I think it's just some guys, you start to tire out after halftime, and then, Dylan Sampson's really, really good, and that Tennessee line is pretty good as well. Uh, and yeah, you're right. They did sort of like they handled the pass game well enough in the first half, but there's been a real issue lately with some just busted coverages in Alabama's defense, where you'll just see a receiver just running fully uncovered, whether a quarterback hits him or not. And yeah, Nico made some really nice throws. The last touchdown to win the game was a great throw, but he didn't make like the easy touchdown throws. Like there were a few where like he didn't throw touchdown passes on the best opportunities to throw touchdown passes. So like yeah, there were a few early that could have broke the game open the other way.
Yeah, there were some guys that were wide open and just a little bit taken off those passes. They would have been touchdowns for Tennessee. Then you go into the second half, and then that's when look, I saw a lot of people on social media, and I was kind of there with it. It's like, okay, this game's kind of it's defense. It's 7-0. This is
Mm.
not what we had 2 years ago in Knoxville. Then things did open up, and then Dylan Sampson went off in the second half, over 100 yards rushing, over 2 touchdowns, and that seemed to open up things for Nico just from looking from the Alabama side of things, did you see something that Tennessee was doing different in the second half, or again, defensive players just getting tired?
I think it was a lot of just defensive players getting tired, and also like Tennessee executing a little better, just like making their blocks. Dylan finding the holes that were there. Yeah, it's just sort of a combination of everything, right? Like it's the second half, they made just a little bit of adjustment. Then, Alabama had some troubles with tackling as well. Had some younger players on the field that maybe weren't quite ready for that moment. And yeah, you saw what happened. Dylan Sampson, one of the best players in college football.
Yeah, he had a day, and I don't think he gets talked about a lot either. In the conference, I mean, we all look at Tennessee. I guess just because Josh Heupel in the past, when we remember with Hendon Hooker a few years ago, that this is a team that likes to throw the ball around. But what they're doing with the run game and with him, I just feel like he's probably maybe one of the more underrated or underappreciated players in college football.
Yeah, I think people just hear Tennessee and Josh Heupel's name at this point and assume they are still like the Hendon Hooker team. I
Mhm.
don't know why. Like at this point, what 8 weeks into the season, like there's no reason to believe that. But yeah, I mean they're a run based football team, and they do that really, really, really well. They have a really good running back. They don't necessarily have they don't have the Jalen Hyatt at receiver that they used to. Like they don't have like as good of threats out there, so the run game it becomes even more important. And then they're also built on a great defense. Like
Mhm.
they got probably the best defensive player in college football, right? Like right up there. So it's a totally different like perception versus reality situation with Tennessee.
Yeah, it is. And so, look at the thing for Alabama coming out of this 24-17. Uh, Obviously, and you kind of mentioned a little bit on the final play, the interception from Jalen Milrow. Did anything else you see on that play that just went wrong for Alabama?
I didn't block real good. That was that's about the extent of it. Didn't get the blocking, didn't get into the throw like he needed to, threw it behind his man, and the walk on safety from Birmingham was right there to grab it from him. So yeah, it was pretty cut and dry.
So now Alabama's got 2 losses before we even get to the month of November. We've all heard the number last time that happened. It's been a long time since Alabama's had 2 losses going to November, but this is a different time in college football. Obviously, they went out. They should be a playoff team. They've got to win against Georgia. You'll have a matchup with LSU on the schedule as well. But how would you grade how Kalen DeBoer's doing so far with this team?
Well, there's an angry mob like currently just gathering outside my apartment right now. They got torches, pitchforks, tar feathers, the whole deal. So it doesn't seem great, but no, in all seriousness, like he's handled it, I think, about as well as he could. Like it's just one of those things where what I don't know what Alabama fans want him to say at this point. Like, it seems like they want him to like really let loose in a press conference or something, or uh, you know, be seen on the sidelines screaming at a player or something. That it's just not. It's just not him. I think they're just gonna have to get used to that. But I mean, he came in the press conference today, said, there's no excuses. We lost the game. Didn't execute correctly. That's on all of us. He didn't go out and blame any players. I think that's a smart thing on his part, given some of the other coaches around the league, around the state.
Or I was
Uh,
about to say in the state.
yeah, no, didn't do that. Didn't throw anybody under the bus but himself. You know, uh, I think it's less important how he handles it in the press conference at this point, and more important, like let's you gotta go beat Missouri, beat LSU, like win out, and people will be a little more on your side here.
Yeah, and talk about Missouri. They got them coming up this Saturday, which will be a 2:30 game. They got Missouri coming in to Tuscaloosa. This Missouri team, they're 6-1, 2-1 in the SEC. They haven't always looked great. Of course, they had that blowout loss to Texas A&M. Had to come back against Auburn. They were down 17-6. Then miraculously, Brady Cook comes back into the game and leads the victory for Missouri. And they've got offensive weapons around Brady Cook. The running backs, Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll, are talented backs. They coming from the Sun Belt last year. And that receiver, Luther Bird, one of the best in the country. But don't sleep on Theo Weiss either. When you look at this Missouri team, do you see them potentially? Can they give Alabama some problems? And just how do you see this for Alabama with this game?
I think they can give Alabama some problems if Brady Cook is, I mean, clearly held together with electrical tape at this point. Uh, if he's healthy enough to really go and hit those downfield plays, like, I mean, that's what we talked about. It's a kind of a weakness of Alabama. There's just receivers kind of breaking through coverages at times. So, I mean, these are as good a wide receiver duo as you'll find in the SEC this year. Luther Burden, I think he's going to play in the NFL for a while, right? Like, an unbelievable talent there. Theo Weiss, really, really good. Uh, so if they can get them the ball down the field, I think that's going to be the absolute huge for Missouri. Missouri, I don't think quite has that same run game that they've had last season. Cody Schrader's off. I want to say he's on an NFL roster now, which is nuts considering I remember writing a story about him coming from a Division II school to Missouri. But like they don't have him there anymore. Uh, yeah, I think that's gonna be it though. It's just like, can you get the ball to Luther Burden 40 yards down the field running uncovered? If they can do that, they're in pretty good shape.
And then defensively, now if you look at the numbers, like especially how many points they allow is 15.6, but we've seen teams that can run the ball give them problems. And you kind of look at Alabama uh, with Justice Haynes, and then you also got Jam Miller and Jalen Miller. Obviously, at the quarterback position, can run the ball too. You've got to think you can look at this game and say take advantage of that. I know Alabama wants to throw the ball around, hit Ryan Williams. He's 17 years old, by the way. I didn't know if you knew that, Matt. I just
Man,
wanted to.
people are telling me that just from time to time you hear it from a source, right? Like, he's 17. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a wild number out there. I didn't know anybody out there listening knew that, but it seems like that could be a part of this game where Alabama maybe could exploit using their run game against Missouri.
Yeah, absolutely, especially after, like I mean, there's been some struggles, especially getting those running backs going, which I mean, they're 2 talented running backs, like Jam Miller and Justice Haynes are both, like, good players. So, if you could use this as an opportunity to just get them in some rhythm, it'd be huge, and then it's, yeah, it's another opportunity to get Jalen Milroe back on track. I think Alabama's at their best when he's, like, a really effective threat in the run game, so, yeah, if you're facing a team that's a little bit weaker in that area, best to take advantage of it, I think. The funny connection there is, Mizzou's D coordinator is Corey Batoon, who was Kane Womack's defensive coordinator last season at South Al. So yeah, fun little connection there.
I wonder if they're both of them are both trying to give some secrets to the offense coaches on what to do against the other one. Oh no, that is a cool little nugget with those two. And another thing, talk about Jalen Milroe. Missouri's kind of like on the bottom half of the league when it comes to sacks. So
Yeah.
there could be an opportunity where he is not, having to throw the ball before he needs to, like he has the last 2 weeks with what it dealt with against South Carolina, and of course with Tennessee. I guess he's probably happy not to deal with an elite defensive front that he's been dealing with the last 2 weeks. But I mean, do you think that could be an opportunity for Alabama too?
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. Like this is a game Alabama should win. Has the talent to win. It's just a case of like, can Alabama get itself straightened out? Like it's so much of what's wrong with Alabama seems self-inflicted at this point. Just like lack of discipline, lack of execution, all of that. And I mean, this is a Missouri team that like has all the makings of being fraudulent, right? Like they've played a fairly easy schedule. They lost like the really hard game to a game that at the time we thought maybe wasn't going to be like as
Yeah.
difficult as it was. Like they were definitely favored against Texas A&M, but turns out Texas A&M pretty good. So I mean, they lost like that game on the schedule. They're coming in with a beat up quarterback. So yeah, this like Alabama needs to take advantage of this one, especially going into a bye week, sort of gather some momentum, straighten some things out, and win convincingly at home.
Yeah, so that's gonna be an interesting game. Now, I didn't prep you for this before we hit record, but would you be cool with doing some rapid fire picks for this week's other SEC games?
Oh sure, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna go through every single one of them, get your thoughts quickly on these cool matchups. 4-3 Oklahoma, who is offensively challenged, at number 18 Ole Miss.
Uh, Ole Miss, they're better. Just I don't have much analysis other than they're better at football just about everywhere.
Yeah, I would agree on that one. The 4-3 Arkansas Razorbacks versus, I guess, the worst team in the SEC, 1-6 Mississippi State.
Yeah, boy, that's one. If you're Sam Pittman, you need to go win that one because, yeah, Mississippi State's just. I mean, they're bad, bad. Like they're not good at all.
All right, this one, who would have thought going to the year this would be two top 25 teams in this matchup? Number 5 Texas 6-1 at number 25 Vanderbilt at 5-2.
Yeah. I mean, you have to take Texas, right? Because, like, I mean, they're so talented, even coming off a loss. Like, I think that's a really, really, really good football team. But, I was there in person watching the Diego Pavia show when they beat Alabama. Like, you can never count them out. Like, I don't know what the line is on that game, but I would take both the under and Vanderbilt to cover, whatever that is. But I think Texas wins probably.
Texas is favored 18.5 points. The over under is 53.5.
Yep. Yeah, I stand by what I said. I don't think they're winning by 18 points.
The game of the day in the SEC, number 8 LSU at number 14 Texas A&M, kind of like a really good offense versus really good defense kind of matchup.
Yeah. So I hadn't looked at the SEC standings in a minute, but you realize like if the SEC championship game was today, that'd be it. You know, I'm I I'll go LSU, and I think it's because I'm in on LSU as like a legitimate contender at this point. Like it's the same. It's the story with Brian Kelly and this LSU team every year, right? Like they go out and play somebody hard the first game, although USC. That loss is aging like milk, but they go out and they play a hard game when they're not like super together yet as a team. They lose, and it sort of sets this narrative all season like LSU's not very good. But like Brian Kelly's a good coach, and he's really got them cooking at this point. Like this is a team that keeps finding ways to win games, and I think they'll do it again here. And I mean, I think we see them in Atlanta, and I think we see them in the playoffs.
Yeah, thing with LSU, that Ole Miss game, they felt like they should have never been in it. Ole Miss had like multiple chances to end that game, and they didn't. So yeah,
Yeah.
LSU's a team like if you have a chance to knock them out, you need to do it then because they will keep coming at you. And then the last game on Saturday in the SEC, the 2-5 Auburn Tigers will take on the 3-4 Kentucky Wildcats.
That's a game with no winners, right? Like the winner is the people who watch something else and figure out a better way to spend their Saturday. But boy, that's also the hardest game to pick. It's like which team is just going to have a disaster occur is really what you're picking here. Where's the game at? Is it at Auburn?
No, it's in Kentucky.
Ooh, see that? And what time of day is it at?
6:45.
Yeah, Lexington at night, low key, a little bit scary environment there. It gets cold coming off the mountains there in Kentucky. Just for that reason, I'll go with the Cats here.
Yeah, it maybe they should play it at 6:45 in the morning. Maybe that would have been the better idea.
Unlike ESPN Deportes.
Yeah, there you go on the Ocho. So anyways, it's going to be a fun weekend of football as always. SEC's been wild this year. Just the unpredictability this conference has this year is fun, and it's fun every week doing that because it makes doing this kind of thing fun. Talking about this conference, but Matt, I appreciate you coming on talking. Looking back at the Alabama-Tennessee game and previewing the Missouri matchup for Saturday. But if the listener viewers want to check it out, where can they find you?
I'm over on Twitter, whatever we're calling the artist formerly known as Twitter these days, Matt Stahl 97, and you can read all the work over at al.com.
All right, sounds good, Matt. And I appreciate the time, and I look forward to doing this again sometime down the road.
Of course, thanks for having me.